This video is an excerpt from my course on Udemy on entrepreneurship, how to start a business, and everything from A to Z. In this particular video, what you're going to see is some preview videos from that course on how to protect your business ideas. It's going to talk about copyrights, patents, NDAs, non-compete agreements, how to protect your ideas and intellectual property, but actually much more than that. This particular video is going to be more comprehensive. It's also going to talk about when you should employ defensive strategies and when you should employ offensive strategies to protect your business ideas, and how to outcompete people. Once you get started, people will copy you, how to always outcompete them, how to build a moat around your business, and how to deter people from getting into your business. So this is actually going to be extremely comprehensive on protecting intellectual property, protecting business ideas. It's going to be a little bit on the long side, but you'll see this video is going to actually go pretty brisk, and the level of insight is going to be quite deep. So if you're interested in the full course, I'll have the link to it in the description below with a coupon code to give you a discount, or you can just enter 99 as I did here, and it's always going to, that coupon code is always going to give you the lowest price possible at the moment. So without further ado, let's get into how to protect your business ideas in many ways. Now let's talk about 6 ways to protect intellectual property. And a lot of entrepreneurs, they struggle. What's the difference between a patent and a trademark? When should I do NDA? What is NDA? Is it worth it? Let's talk about all that. So first of all, a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. For legal advice, please use an attorney. And keep in mind, laws vary from country to country and from state to state even. So you got to use a local attorney who understands the law in your area. Different laws apply differently. So what I'll be giving you is just a general overview, but enough for you to make sense of things. So let's talk about the difference between copyrights, patents, and trademarks. Copyrights are for protecting written works like books, music, things like that. Patents are for protecting inventions. Let's say you made a new product or a new process or a new algorithm. You can protect that with a patent. Patents are very expensive and time consuming. It's sometimes upwards of $10,000 and many months to get a patent. So it's a big decision whether you want to have that. And trademarks, they protect things like business names, logos, slogans. So for example, if you consider Nike, that little logo, that is trademarked. And also the slogan, just do it, that's trademarked. And the name Nike, that's also trademarked. And the picture of the logo, right? So all of that is trademarked. So hopefully that gives you an overview. Now, a lot of people also ask, what happens? Will my idea get stolen? Is that a risk? Usually it's an overblown concern. I can't tell you not to worry about it because every rare once in a while it happens, but it almost never happens because people are too busy with their own work, and even though you think your idea is good, probably they don't. And anyway, it's not the idea that matters, it's your implementation of it and making it a success, because everybody will copy you once it's successful anyway. It's going to be out there. But if you're worried, you should always work with people you can trust. I know it's a gray area. Sometimes we think we can trust people, sometimes we don't. But often we have an accurate gut reaction. And if you're feeling a little desperate, maybe for money, for help, you might get into business with somebody that you don't really know if you can trust them yet. And that's usually a sign for bad things to come. So just keep that as a rule of thumb and always have that as one of your guiding ideas. Work with people you can trust. Now, on the more practical side, there are things that are called NDA, non-disclosure agreement. It's an actual legal document that says that when people sign it, they agree not to disclose whatever you're going to tell them. And this is for people who are outside of your company and for employees. Now, there's a lot of debate about usefulness and application of NDAs because they waste time. They're very difficult to enforce. I mean, you're literally going to have to sue somebody to enforce that. And it irritates some people. For example, I don't like when people ask me to sign an NDA. Investors don't like when they're asked to sign an NDA. First of all, they can't because sometimes they have competing companies they're helping, and so do I. And it's just a waste of time. And I rather focus on the business rather than the legalities of protecting the idea that I'm not even going to steal it. It's a total waste. But the NDAs do protect a tiny bit of deterrence just by kind of scaring people, making, like letting them know, hey, you are under NDA, so don't do anything crazy. So there's a tiny bit of benefit. In many cases, I'd skip it. But again, this is not legal advice. That's just my opinion. And also, another tool you have is a document called non-compete agreement. This is for business partners or employees who work at your company. And the agreement is that, let's say they leave for some agreed upon amount of time, they're not going to be able to either start or get hired by a direct competitor of yours. So these are the tools to protect your intellectual property. Now that we talked about protecting your intellectual property and protecting your ideas, I want to talk about the strategy that's traditionally been considered a defensive business strategy, but I actually see it as an offensive business strategy, and that's the idea of creating a moat around your business. If you're not familiar with what a moat is, here is a picture of one. You see, this is a castle, but it has this little lake around it, and that lake is the moat. And traditionally, moats are built around castles or towns so that they can be protected defensively, right? It's way harder to attack this castle if there's a moat around it, because while people are trying to cross this moat, people from the castle are shooting arrows at it and stuff like that. So that's the moat. But how do we create this analogy for your business? This kind of a defense that nobody can enter, like a big barrier to competing with you. Let's talk about that. So I'm going to call this a defensive attacking strategy. Why? Because when you're successful, everyone is going to copy your success. No question. So you have to out-succeed everyone and run away from the competition, because anyone can copy or rebuild what you built. Like, for example, it might take a good software development team to build the core features of Facebook or Uber or any of the, like Airbnb or any of the cool, gigantic billion-dollar businesses. It's quick to rebuild that software, no problem. That's not the problem. Software is like a small, tiny barrier. Good teams can build it, but what is really nearly impossible to create is the billion users that Facebook has, the branding that Facebook has, those interactions and the photos that they posted, and their friends are all on there. So you can't just get one person to join because it would be pointless for them. All their friends are there. So you almost have to pull it as a community. And that community and all that activity and all that history is becoming a stronger and stronger moat for Facebook every day. So let's talk about what kind of businesses moats apply to and how you can build one for yourself. And the reason I say that it's a defensive attacking strategy is because you have to go on the attack and outcompete and outgrow. In most cases, your goal shouldn't be to just protect, defend, hide. In most cases, it should be run away from the competition and outcompete them. That's my preferred way of doing. That's the way for most technology companies to do things anyway, because you have to grow anyway. Might as well just grow faster and better. So what kind of businesses this applies to? A lot of brokering platforms. What that means is bringing people together. This can be dating, right? Men and women, or different people, bringing them for dating. Social sites like Facebook, communities, forums where people are used to posting and they come back to posting, things like that. Also, if you bring together buyers and sellers, for example, Amazon, or creators and consumers like YouTube or course sites, at some point, these sites, they have what's called critical mass, after which it's incredibly difficult to catch up to them, and they just grow because they grow their brand recognition, because a lot of people use them, a lot of people talk about them, but also they grow their user base. Also, a different type of a situation where a moat is used is for highly reviewed products or services. Let me show you an example of that. I'm actually on Udemy, and I searched for product, a blender. It's a technology. The reason I searched for it is in this space, there is one person with a moat. It's this course. You see the one with the dinosaur? Why is there a moat? Because he's got 30,000 reviews. The next person has 4,000, which is in itself a moat, but the next people have like 400 reviews, 27. You see, it really drops. Even though it's a lot of reviews, it's nothing compared to this first person. That's a moat. And you see that everywhere. You see that on Amazon. You see this in service review sites. Companies with a lot more reviews than other companies or products, that's their moat. And they just get that moat, and people buy because of the 30,000 reviews. That's a big factor in selling. And so more people buy, therefore more people review. And that's a perpetuating kind of a snowball effect where maybe the course is not even that good, but people just buy it because of the extra reviews. And obviously, again, because more people buy it, more people review, and the gap just keeps growing. The gap between the first and the second person just keeps accelerating because of this nuance. The same that happens with YouTube views, that happens with Amazon products, that happens in a lot of platforms you might sell. So that's the idea of a moat. Don't think of it defensively, and don't rely too much on defensive strategies. In business, you have to attack and be really aggressive. Most of the time, that is more valuable and more effective than pursuing purely defensive strategies. After I made the last video about creating a moat for your business, I had additional ideas on this topic as it pertains to first-time entrepreneurs and a lot of my students, and that is that instead of thinking of how do you create a moat when you're a first-time entrepreneur or starting your business, you're not making a moat, you're facing a moat. That's the challenge that most of my students have and most first-time entrepreneurs have, and that's what I coach people on all the time. Usually the moats are competition. It's always like you're in a difficult market. Most niches today are very competitive. Usually first-time entrepreneurs have lack of resources. And if for some products like maybe dating apps or something like that, it's really hard to get critical mass, which is essentially a lot of activity of people that you're bringing together on your platform. And of course, if you're entering a market and you're selling a product, there's probably some products out there that are already very successful in your niche. And what happens is, of course, this leads to frustration and failure and quitting. And people wonder, well, why do people fail so much in business? But really that's why, is because you're facing that moat. That's really what's happening. And that's why I always talk about niching down. You don't have to stay in a tiny niche forever, but it has to be your foothold where you start to get some success, because if you're going up against big competitors, you're actually fighting against their moat, which is tricky. So that's really something to think about. Now, I also want to bring up another issue. There is this idea of a moat, and there's an idea of a barrier to entry. You might have heard this term barrier to entry. What's the difference between them? Well, a barrier to entry, it prevents people from starting. It's a deterrent from starting. A moat, it helps you compete against competitors after they've started. So a moat helps during competition. Since earlier we talked about moats, let's talk about some examples of barriers to entry. Patents are barriers to entry. Of course, if you patent some technology, nobody can use that. Also, if you create technically complex products, it doesn't deter everyone, obviously, because a lot of good programmers can copy that, but it deters many potential competitors. And of course, additional barriers to entry is a business that requires a lot of money or other resources to get started. And lastly, let's talk about this idea of being first to market. A lot of people obsess about it. I think it's overhyped, because being first to market means you're innovating, and innovating carries more risk. It even has more risk if you're facing something like a moat, because most experiments, just by their nature, they fail. And a lot of my clients, especially when they had unique ideas, it kind of became a point of obsession and stress for them, because they always focused on like, I gotta go faster. And that created this kind of stress and desperation, which actually resulted in a lot of bad, desperate business decisions, like hiring the wrong people, partnering with the wrong people, which led to failure actually rather than success. And even if you create something great, once you create something great, there will be a lot of copycats, a lot of people copying your business. They will look at your history and your trajectory as a business, what you've done, the mistakes you've made, they'll use that. They're not going to make the mistakes you made. Those mistakes will be expensive learning experiences for you, but for your competitors, they'll be like, oh, thanks for teaching me what not to do. And so for every competitor, it will be cheaper to get into that business because you've done the hard work, which is the innovation, and you'll have a lot of copycats. If you're successful, a lot of people will copy you. There's no question about it. At least they'll try. Even if you have barriers to entry and a moat, the people will still try to compete with you. And another thing that is important is if you are truly first to market, you have to ask yourself a very important question. Why am I the first to market? It's very easy to assume, oh, because I'm smart, or because I'm creative, or because I'm innovative. But really, there's like 6 billion people living in the world. Surely other people have had these ideas. Surely other people have tried your idea. So is it just that maybe you didn't do enough research, or you don't know your market very well, or even worse, historically, there's a lot of people who tried your business, but all failed. So you could be kind of looking around and seeing no competitors, but you're like literally standing on a graveyard of past businesses that failed trying to do the same thing what you're doing. So you have to evaluate, okay, how did this business fare historically, and am I doing something better that actually will lead me to success so that I don't make the same mistakes that earlier businesses that failed did. And there is one truism that is something to take away from this, and it's that winner is the company that outcompetes long term. You can jump out of the gate and you can get a head start by being first to market, by having defenses, but it's the company that outcompetes long term. There's examples of both companies that have had competition that passed them and not. Like if you look at Facebook, they basically just executed the social networking space better, because before that there was MySpace, and thousands upon thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of companies tried to create social networks, and still Facebook is the king of it. But the first company, MySpace, who was a first serious company in that space, they failed. Facebook outcompeted them. But if you look at a company like Uber, they were the first entrant in that space of taxi apps, but they ended up outcompeting. Even though there's so many apps competing with them in every which way, they're still the leader. So in this case, offense is the best defense, because whoever executes better, longer, wins. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and give a thumbs up. And also, if you have thoughts on this, further ideas, just leave a comment, maybe ask me a question in the comments. I love to interact with viewers of my videos. If you found this video helpful, I will link up some of the business strategy and business fundamental courses in the YouTube description so that you can take some next steps, because this was only about 15 minutes of a 5+ hour course that gets really deep into business fundamentals, which are really crucial if you're starting a business so that you don't make the common mistakes. And of course, I have a whole lot of courses, 125 courses at the time of this taping, and any course, what's going to happen is coupon, you enter 99. At the moment, Udemy is having a sale, which all the courses are $9.99 anyway, but that's not the case most of the time. And in fact, they're changing their pricing. But this code, coupon code 99, will work for any course, and it's going to reduce the price to whatever is lowest possible at that moment. It's going to reduce the course to that price. So I recommend you just browse all my courses, see if there's anything that sparks your interest besides the courses I suggest. And if you prefer reading over taking video-based courses, I also have a large list of books. I have 20 books that I've written over time, all on starting a business, business issues. I'll link that up as well, so you can browse my book catalog. So whichever you like, courses or books, I have a lot of business fundamentals, business theory content that I discuss and write about, and you're welcome to explore all of it. So thanks again for watching, and hope to see you in my courses, or maybe check out one of my books.